Hello and welcome to Better Body Movement. This class is designed to help you start feeling well.
I have less pain, literally eliminate that pain.
I just feel better.
I can tell that my posture is changing.
Bright light in the day when we've done our workouts online.
Makes me feel so good about myself.
For the foot, we're going to be looking at 4 different layers of muscle tissue. We'll begin with the most superficial ones. This initial layer is where we will focus first, with the bulk of our work being done on the flexor digitorum brevis. On the inside of the foot near the arch and heel is the abductor hallucis, and on the outside near the heel, the abductor digiti minimi. The second layer is made up of the quadratus plantae and the lumbricals. The lumbricals are intertwined with the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus. The third layer of muscle tissue is important when concerning pain at the ball of the foot. Here, the focus is on the flexor hallucis brevis, flexor digiti minimi brevis, adductor hallucis, the oblique head, and the transverse head. We're going to begin our work with a lacrosse ball right next to the wall. Place your foot beside the wall and start with the lacrosse ball near the front of the foot or the ball of the foot. Slowly press your foot over the ball, moving the ball towards the heel. Once you reach the heel, continue your pressure directly into the tissue connecting to the heel. As you stand still with pressure, pull the toes up, then flex them down into the floor. Continue this process for 2 to 3 rounds. Then proceed to work on the ball of the foot, stopping incrementally to flex the toes and relax. This process should take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes to work your way all the way back to the heel, stretching the fascia on the bottom of the foot. Be sure to use firm pressure as you flex the toes and pull them up. Be sure to breathe and relax as you work the ball towards the heel. Next, we're going to use a bouncy ball near the ball of the foot, in the arch, and near the heel. The point of this is to push with even pressure into the floor, allowing your foot to collapse or fold over the ball for 20 to 30 seconds. Then, lift your foot, move the ball to a new area, and begin to stand again with even pressure on both feet. Even pressure means do not lean away from the pressure, but keep the pressure on both feet for 20 to 30 seconds. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times all over your left and then right foot. You can work from the ball of the foot all the way towards the heel. Remember to relax and stand evenly on the ball. The final layer of muscle tissue is between the metatarsals, called the Plantar Enterasii. These are small muscles, but powerful for squeezing the foot tight. Work each finger between each toe until you have reached the webbing. It may take you some time to get to this point because it is an extreme stretch. Regardless of how deep you get your fingers into your toes, create a squeeze on the ball of the foot, creating separation of the metatarsals. Begin to move the foot back and forth, creating a big stretch. You will continue this anywhere from 30 to 40 seconds. Using the fingertips, we will begin working the top of the foot. Bend the toes up and press your fingers between the toes up the foot toward the ankle. This will create greater relaxation of the muscles that hold the toes together. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times, then return to the pivoting motion back and forth on the ball of the foot. For the foot, we're going to be looking at 4 different layers of muscle tissue. We'll begin with the most superficial ones. This initial layer is where we will focus first, with the bulk of our work being done on the flexor digitorum brevis. On the inside of the foot near the arch and heel is the abductor hallucis, and on the outside near the heel, the abductor digiti minimi. The second layer is made up of the quadratus plantae and the lumbricals. The lumbricals are intertwined with the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus. The third layer of muscle tissue is important when concerning pain at the ball of the foot. Here, the focus is on the flexor hallucis brevis, flexor digiti minimi brevis, adductor hallucis, the oblique head, and the transverse head. We're going to begin our work with a lacrosse ball right next to the wall. Place your foot beside the wall and start with the lacrosse ball near the front of the foot or the ball of the foot. Slowly press your foot over the ball, moving the ball towards the heel. Once you reach the heel, continue your pressure directly into the tissue connecting to the heel. As you stand still with pressure, pull the toes up, then flex them down into the floor. Continue this process for 2 to 3 rounds. Then proceed to work on the ball of the foot, stopping incrementally to flex the toes and relax. This process should take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes to work your way all the way back to the heel, stretching the fascia on the bottom of the foot. Be sure to use firm pressure as you flex the toes and pull them up. Be sure to breathe and relax as you work the ball towards the heel. Next, we're going to use a bouncy ball near the ball of the foot, in the arch, and near the heel. The point of this is to push with even pressure into the floor, allowing your foot to collapse or fold over the ball for 20 to 30 seconds. Then, lift your foot, move the ball to a new area, and begin to stand again with even pressure on both feet. Even pressure means do not lean away from the pressure, but keep the pressure on both feet for 20 to 30 seconds. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times all over your left and then right foot. You can work from the ball of the foot all the way towards the heel. Remember to relax and stand evenly on the ball. The final layer of muscle tissue is between the metatarsals, called the plantar enterasii. These are small muscles, but powerful for squeezing the foot tight. Work each finger between each toe until you have reached the webbing. It may take you some time to get to this point because it is an extreme stretch. Regardless of how deep you get your fingers into your toes, create a squeeze on the ball of the foot, creating separation of the metatarsals. Begin to move the foot back and forth, creating a big stretch. You will continue this anywhere from 30 to 40 seconds. Using the fingertips, we will begin working the top of the foot. Bend the toes up and press your fingers between the toes up the foot toward the ankle. This will create greater relaxation of the muscles that hold the toes together. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times, then return to the pivoting motion back and forth on the ball of the foot.
Yeah, it's
All
the stuff that
right.
hurts.
It's the stop that gets you. Okay, we are going to get started. Really glad you could be here. Remember, we want you to be able to get the most out of this training, so the comments below are available to you as we go through the training. So if you have questions, please ask them. The whole point of having a trainer live is that you're able to ask the questions to see how we can help you move well and live well, okay? If you have not yet, please do subscribe to our channel. Helps us perform and provide the information that you need in order to get there. So we will go through our I dedicates. Remember, at the top of our screen, we'll maintain this through the entire workout. That is the name of those individuals that we are dedicating today. If you happen to have a dedication, you also may comment that down below. Let us know what's going on and how we can pray for the individual that you would like to dedicate. We would love to put them on our boards. So right now we have Lori's mom doing dialysis 3 times a week. Ethan with his stage 4 liver and bile duct cancer, so praying for him and his family. As a reminder, he is young, I think close to my age, with some small children, so we want to pray healing over him. My friend's wife, who was diagnosed with breast cancer, they are treating that naturally, so we're excited to see that process working, that these natural things that they're doing. Primary source being prayer is what they have told us, or told me firmly. So we will continue to pray for Kira to build strength after her lymphatic surgeries and radiation, and then we will also pray for her dad, Jim, who seems to be, have we heard anything through the weekend about Jim? Okay, so we'll just continue to pray for him and their family with that transition. And Carol just updated us. Jane is in her last days according to hospice. So again, be in prayer mostly for her family. That transition time is very, very difficult, that she could be comfortable and hopefully ushered into eternity with her father. So yeah, those are I dedicate. So again, if you have any, please let us know. We will put them on our board as well and make sure that we're praying for them through our time. Our verse of the day, I find this one interesting. Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Genesis 1:26. So, this is our big verse for human creation. And then there's a subtext, or not a subtext, but another chapter that kind of goes into detail about the creation of man and woman. But the reason I find this interesting, because it says, and let them have dominion over. So it's not like God was fooled, like we see maybe in that later scripture where it's like, oh, God made man, and it was good. And then he realized, oh no, there's no one to pair with the man. And now it was bad, right? Like, so God wasn't deceived. It's not like he didn't think of the fact that he needed to create a woman to be partners with the man. He already knew that from the moment he created them. But he just was, I think there's an emphasis on, without a partner, it's difficult to move forward. So that's...
And I have learned over the years that to have dominion over means that you get to name them.
Dominion over is naming them. Yeah. Which he did, right?
Yeah, man.
That man named all those animals. So yeah. And we have a responsibility to it, right? I saw an interesting quote the other day. I'm going to butcher it, but it was like, human beings are the only ones on earth who pray to God and ruin nature, when yet nature is the element of God. And it's just, it was profound to me, because it's sitting there going, it's very true. We're very harsh to the very, the earth that he gave us dominion to be over, but it's a stewarding, it's a blessing to be a part of the earth. And I heard a scientific statement that was talking about how the ecosystems work and how the planet works. And they said, you could take any one species and kill them completely off, wipe them out, extinct, and it would affect and end up destroying the entire chain, right? The entire cycle, except for human beings. If human beings were not on the earth would thrive even more, supposedly, right? And again, it's just one of those statements where we think about, how are we treating our earth, right? This is something that was given to us not to destroy, but to usher in the coming of his kingdom, be a part of making restoration happen. And we get to partner with God in that. And that is such a cool thing to say, that him through us brings his kingdom to this earth. And that's what Jesus told us to pray, right? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, right? So if his kingdom is coming to earth, we get to partake right now. Let us be a part of it. So that's where I sit on that one. Agree, disagree, doesn't matter to me. Because I get the camera and I get to say what I want. All right, here we go. And if you haven't seen me before,
1. Pelvic tilt.
I'm not one to argue, but I am one to listen to a lot of different opinions, because I think they're great. Yeah. I mean, the more we hear and the more we are taught different things and understand where people sit and how their perspective is different than ours, we get to make even better decisions over time, right? And have prayerful thought and discernment into those areas, rather than just being closed off, shut down, and black and white, this is what I believe. It can be very difficult to grow and understand people. So there you go. All right, we are doing pelvic tilts, which means your Kegels should be on point. So squeeze really tight that pelvic floor, and then compress that low lumbar spine down into the floor really hard.
3,
okay, I want you to
2,
press,
1.
burn.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Okay, tilt with knee fall out, so feet together here. And then we will set up for letting one knee out
3,
at a time.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Again, the most important thing with our core day always is that we actually squeeze the core. Okay, that's why it's core day. So in order to do that, again, Kegel, firm pelvic floor, compress that spine against the ground, right? So you want to think like if you have a belt underneath your lumbar spine or your low back, you want to pin that belt to the ground by squeezing your core, okay? Then you can perform the movement or range of motion in the hips. So this is important as far as establishing a base or a firm foundation that your hips can now generate movement out of, right? So your hips should be a highly mobile joint. They're a ball and socket. That means your core or your spine, lumbar spine, should actually be very stable. And that comes from a firm squeeze all the way from the front of your stomach around to the back side, right? We want to make sure that we
3,
squeeze
2,
that like a girdle.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with abduction.
Okay, tilt with adduction, grab a foam roller. Throw that between your knees, or if you don't have a foam roller at home, make sure you grab a pillow, just something you can put between those knees.
3,
Sometimes like a
2,
little ball is
1. Pelvic
helpful there
tilt with
too.
abduction.
Again, Kegel first, core compressed, squeeze that low back against the ground, squeeze your knees, release your knees, keeping your core tight, then release your core, okay? And then redo that, okay? This is always a stepped process. It's never squeeze all together and release all at the same time. very, very distinct and will make it more challenging with rounds 2 and 3, okay? So make sure you just do your best to really connect your
That's
brain
halfway.
to that core muscle, okay? Compressing hard. Again, this is not a navel to spine thing. We're not thinking suck our belly in and extend. We actually are thinking compress down, right? So the ribs are kind of traveling towards the hips, and the hips are tucking just a little bit because the core is squeezing so hard. And if that seems vague, try to do a sit-up
3,
before you leave the
2,
ground, right?
1.
Just that little
Prepare
crunch
for pelvic tilt with knee
gets the
toward
core
chest.
tight. But we want to try to practice having a tight core, but yet a tall posture. So that's the difference. We're keeping our shoulders on the ground,
3,
training our posture
2,
to be long and tall.
1. Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Okay, good compression through that core as you march your feet, right? Knee toward chest just means march your feet. Keep your opposite foot just light on the ground. You're not pushing down. You're not trying to pick up stability in your hips, right? So your butt cheeks actually here should be quite relaxed. Force all of it into the core, okay? Again, pin that belt
That's
to the
halfway.
ground as though I would come up and try to pull that out from underneath your low back. I want you to press it down harder, okay? Really pin it there. Okay, I want you to envision me coming up and grabbing that belt and just leaning with all my weight. Don't let me pull it out. Okay, squeeze tight. Firm, firm, firm compression. Then shoulders down and
3,
back.
2, 1.
Awesome.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Cool. Tilt and bridge. So when we do our pelvic tilt here, it's to make the spine as strong as possible.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay. Press that core. Squeeze tight. Then pinch the penny between the butt cheeks. Okay? You're making sure that you hold that firm. When you return to the ground, I'm wanting your low back, ribs, and hips to all touch at the same time. Okay? There should not be an arch in your back when you return to the floor. Okay? So as soon as you return, you should be pinning that belt again to the ground. Okay?
That's
Press.
halfway.
Hold that core tight, tight, tight. As hard as you possibly can. Okay, doing your absolute best all the way through. Very good. Again, recompress, re-squeeze. Tight, tight, tight.
3, 2,
Very good.
1. Prepare for shoulder drops.
Awesome. All right, shoulder drops. So we're going to start by just taking those shoulder blades down and back.
3, 2, 1. Shoulder drop.
Okay, then as you go through your range of motion, whatever range of motion you have, even if it's restricted, arm just straight, go to that restricted point, and then work on pulling your shoulder blade back down and back as your arm returns towards the ceiling. Okay? So the movement isn't what matters. What matters is returning to that stable shoulder environment. Okay? We never want to return with the shoulders just hanging out up in our ears. Okay? I go up overhead,
halfway.
but I need to return. Okay? Get those shoulders down and back. Okay, so either think like a suspenders, right? Pulling the shoulders to the opposite back pocket, or pinch your bra strap, like unclip the bra strap with your shoulder blades. Get them way down and back. As hard as you can, all the way through.
3, 2,
Very good.
1. Prepare for dead bug.
All right, dead bugs. So as we do dead bugs, same exact thing with your core, right? We're going to add the arms with the feet. You'll extend opposites, okay?
3, 2, 1. Dead bug.
So again, as you go through this, you're recompressing that core as tight as you possibly can. Part of this is thinking actually lift your tailbone up off the ground, right? You're using your core to kind of pull that pelvis up. We're kind of pushing those knees straight up to the ceiling as you hold, okay? And then we want to put a box in between our arms and our knees. Just the idea of a box, right? 90-90, 90 at the armpits,
That's
90 at the
halfway.
legs. Okay? So squeezing tight through it. You're doing your best. And again, only extend the leg as far as your core can stay on the ground. Okay? If you extend all the way to the floor and your low back pops up off the ground, you're going too far. Bring it back up, reset that core, and extend,
3,
making sure that
2,
stays tight.
1. Long rest.
All right, very good work. So 1 round down, we have 2 more to go. So remember to challenge yourself through it, okay? So we're gonna try to force a little bit more of a challenge. That comes from pulling your feet off the ground, but we're not gonna do it fully. We're only gonna do 50% for round 2, okay? 50% of the weight off your feet. So just a small flex through the hips, thinking knees towards the chest, and then compressing that core to hold it in place. Might not sound like much, but it'll add a lot to your core compression.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt.
Okay, here we go. Pelvic tilt, core compression, really tight, doing your absolute best all the way through.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt.
Here we go. Strong pelvic tilt. Flatten that spine, squeeze hard. Oh, nice, Carol. 2 rounds of leg work yesterday. That's what I like to see, getting it in. Good, good, good. Core tight,
That's
and again, gently, right? You don't even have to lift the feet or move the feet. It's just think through, start flexing. Just gently pulling some of the tension, thinking the knees towards the chest. Okay? If you go to do that, and right now it pops that low back off the ground, and I show that here, if that's happening, recompress the core harder as you start lifting the knees. Again, you're trying to force that
3,
low back to just
2,
stay in position.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
But again, feet together, compress your core just like we've been doing, Kegel core compression. Knee to the side, bring it back up. Again, range of motion doesn't matter.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
So don't think it's about how far your knee goes. Okay? This is all about how hard your core compresses. Do not let your pelvis roll on the ground. Right? The hips should not be changing position at all. It's press and hold, knee out, knee back up. Okay, and a way to check this one too is you can take your fingers and put them right behind the backside of the top
That's
of the back.
halfway.
Okay, just put your fingertips there. When your knee goes to the side, if you feel more pressure on the tips of your fingers, you know that pelvis is moving with it. Right? Then we re-squeeze the core even harder and compress to hold that pelvis still. Okay, we're thinking from ribs all the way to hips. It's just a piece of iron. Nothing moves.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Awesome. Okay, tilt with adduction. So grab again that foam roller or pillow, just something put between your knees. This time it's a 6-step process. So the first time through, we'll do it
3,
together.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Okay, so Kegel, core compression, tight, tight, tight. Squeeze your knees together. Gently start lifting the knees towards the chest just a tiny bit. Set it back down. Release the knees, then release the core. There's a friend out our door. I don't know whose that is. Very good. See, you never know what you're going to get with live training.
That's halfway.
Dogs running up to our door and everything. Good core compression. Look like a husky. Very good. Tight squeeze. Right? Every single part of the movement should be very, very distinct. Kegel core compression. Squeeze the knees. Lift. Set back down. Release the knees. Core should still be tight. Then release the core.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
I just couldn't resist it. She was very on. When she came yesterday, she said,
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Oh, yeah. Familiar with those puppy trials. Very good. Okay, again, through your march, your opposite foot should be light on the ground. Okay, it should be light on the ground. So when you lift one, the other one should be very, very gently lifting towards your chest. Okay, force that core to pick up any of the slack where that spine is trying to shift and change, and make sure you recompress it down. Okay. Oh, they'd never sell dogs. They'd all be returned. Good, good, good.
Three, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Oh, wow. All right, very good work.
3,
Transition
2,
here.
1. Pelvic
To
tilt with
bridge.
bridge.
Okay, again, with your bridge, feet about shoulder width apart, we want to keep the knees out. We're not letting those collapse in. So when we pull the knees out, it actually changes the position of that hip. So it's external rotation. That's what we're trying to do, is engage those external rotators at the top of the hips. Okay, so again, we're still focused though on the core, right? Get the core really tight. Then we transition into lifting and pinching through the butt cheeks. Okay? A lot of times people will say they cramp on this one in the back of the legs. As you lift, just think you're gently pressing your feet away from you, okay? Engage the top of the leg, that quadricep, by thinking extend your knees just a tiny bit as you're lifting, okay? It's not sliding your feet. It's just changing from pulling the heels towards the butt to pushing the feet away.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for
Good.
shoulder drops.
All right, shoulder drops. And again, stay nice and tall. Shoulder blades down and back. Doing your best all the way through.
2, 1. Shoulder drop.
Good, firm compression. Shoulder blades down, back, down, back. Recompress that core. Squeeze tight, tight, tight. Press hard. Again, shoulder blades firmly planted in position.
That's halfway.
Yeah. Recompress that core. Right? That's a good thing at the halfway. Okay? Every time you hear halfway, just start recompressing that core. Okay, again, this one is about shoulder blades down and back. Get them out of the ears with every return, right? Every time that hand returns, pull that shoulder back, down, and back. Okay? Thinking,
3,
pressing through
2,
it.
1.
Awesome.
Prepare for dead bug.
Okay, so you can do dead bugs or bird dogs. So I'll show the bird dogs here through this this exercise. So we're going to go hands, knees. The important part, don't
3,
cat or cow
2,
with the
1.
spine. I want that spine
Dead bug.
neutral. So even through your extension, okay, do not think the extension is more important than keeping your core tight. Okay, you're going to keep that core compressed, even if that means you don't go to full extension, right? Do your absolute best to maintain that compression through the movement, right? That's the whole point. Good. Tight squeeze, tight squeeze.
That's
Firm
halfway.
compression. Nice, 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 nice. Again, all the way through. If you need little breaks, take them. That's okay, right? but we do want to make it a challenge. Right? Very good. Almost there. Finish all the way strong through the exercise.
2, 1. Long rest.
Awesome work. Okay, now that we got 2 rounds down, round 3, of course, we're going to make it even more difficult. So if you're able to, right, if round 2, pretty simple, you were able to get the compression through the hips, right, pulling the feet up, and the core was able to stay tight, you're going to progress now, right? We're going to go to hovering the feet on the ground, okay? If you struggled with round 2, just redo round 2, right? Don't lift the feet, but just start creating that contraction and learn to compress that core, okay? But otherwise, every single movement, hover the feet 1 to 2 seconds, set them back down,
3,
then release your
2,
core.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt.
Okay, so let's prep, get set up, ready to go. Last round, do your absolute best. Again, maintain spinal compression. It's all about that spinal compression.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt.
Okay, again, Kegel, pelvic floor tight, compress, pin that belt to the floor, lift the feet off the ground, make sure that spine didn't change at all, right? The hips shouldn't shift. If it does, go back 1, don't lift your feet, right? Because all this means is you have something to work on, right? It doesn't matter which area you're trying, right? It matters that you try, okay? Because the level of where you're at right now, that's just based on where you're at, right? Some people can do this, some people can't. But we want to try to get to where we could do this, holding, bracing that spine, getting the feet to hover, no change whatsoever. Okay? Yeah. Right? So we're thinking as soon as we squeeze, it freezes. Everything just turns rock solid, holding tight, lift the feet, set the feet down,
3,
nothing changes.
2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Awesome. Okay, tilt with knee fall out. Feet together, same thing here, right? Press, lift,
3,
move.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Okay, and this one especially, your range of motion is going to be restricted if you're hovering your feet because you lose a point of contact on the floor, right? A little bit easier if you're leaving your feet on the floor, okay? But if you lift those feet up, you might even take and put your hands about 45 degrees away from your side, right? So take them out wide and push your palms into the floor. That'll give you a little more stability because then
That's halfway.
as your knee goes out to the side, you can compress that core harder and maybe feel like you're not going to just roll over, okay? Again, do your absolute best all the way through. Compress firm, hard squeeze. Really, again, try not to let that pelvic bowl spill at all, right? So we're keeping that pelvis
2,
glued to the ground.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt
Good.
with adduction.
Okay, adduction, foam roller, pillow, whatever you've got, put it between your knees. Again, 6-step process. Make sure you do the absolute best you can to make the core
3,
stay tight
2,
all the way.
1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Okay, here we go. Kegel, core compressed, firm squeeze through the knees, lift your feet, set your feet down, release the knees. Core should be tight, then release the core. Okay, each one, all the way through, each one, all the way through. Good compression. Again, we're trying to hold that spine really tight, which means you need to pin that belt to the floor with that low
That's
back.
halfway.
Right? When we do that, it's going to put us in a more stable environment and take pressure off of the discs when they're pushed in, janky ways. Squeeze, tight. Again, doing your absolute best all the way through. Firm squeeze. Press
3,
hard.
2, 1.
Awesome.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Very good. Tilt with knee toward chest. So as you do this one, right, marching your feet, try to hover, right? Get to that hover point.
3,
1 up,
2,
back down to a hover.
1. pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Okay. And as you get started here, I want you to check if both are moving simultaneously. Okay? If they're both moving at the same time, we're doing it wrong. Okay? Hover the feet, bring one up, back down to that hover, other side up, back down to a hover. If you need to, set the feet down, recompress the core, jump right back into it. Okay? No matter what, we're just trying to make this as challenging as possible for you,
That's halfway.
which means you have to control, and understand if you're going too far, if you're trying too much, and that low back comes up, that's too much, okay? Take it back. Get that core pinning that low back to the floor, nice and hard. Compress, compress, compress. Again, we're trying to train spinal stability through hip movement. So anything that we do throughout the day,
3,
we would be able to
2,
brace.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Good. Here we go, Tilton Bridge. This one, again, you should just turn your spine into steel, squeeze those butt cheeks to come up, and then set back down.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay, again, I do not want you to peel off the floor like a sticker. Okay, you're not just going vertebrae by vertebrae all the way up and then coming back down. I want the whole body to lift, right? Shoulders go straight into the ground, and then set. Okay? So think just like a board, right? If I lift one end of the board, even if it's 1 inch, all of the board will leave the ground except the one point of contact. So the same thing from the hips to the shoulder. Your hips lift, your shoulders go on the ground, even if it's 1 inch, right? Because we have that core tight and we are a piece of steel, right? From the hips all the way to the shoulders. Good compression, squeeze tight. Again, put that penny between the butt cheeks, squeezing firm. Do not let those knees come in towards each other. They should stay out.
3,
Good.
2, 1.
Awesome.
Prepare for shoulder drops.
All right. We only have 2 more, so do your absolute best. Try to finish through. Okay, as we work through those shoulders, remember to compress the
3,
core.
2, 1. Shoulder drop.
Okay, it's easy on this one to get focused on your arm, maybe trying to get all the way to the floor. Sometimes when we do that, if there's shoulder restriction or impingement, we end up moving through it, right? So if I'm pinned to the floor, okay, and I go to lift and I get restricted, sometimes I can start arching my back thinking I'm getting more range of motion, but really nothing changed as far as the joint angle. Right? So we want to work that joint
That's
angle,
halfway.
forcing the shoulder blades down and back. Okay, very important to get that scapular stability, drawing those shoulder blades into an appropriate position and alignment. Because even with healthy shoulders, if I go to a bad position where I'm forward and upward rolled, I lose range of motion. Right? I pull those down and back, I have full range of motion.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for dead bug.
Awesome. All right, dead bugs or bird dogs. You can do either one. Okay. If bird dogs seem too hard on your knees, so I know especially for individuals
3,
with maybe total knees,
2, 1. Dead bug.
Total knee replacements, an alternative to this one could be something like a chair that you just put your hands on. Okay, if you're going to try a bird dog. So if I have a chair and I just lean over that chair, right, keep my spine straight, I can try to go this way. So depending on what you're able to get out of it, right, make sure you squeeze as hard as you possibly can. Core
That's
compressed.
halfway.
Again, shoulders down and back, squeeze hard all the way through, all the way through. Compress, compress, compress. Again, get those shoulders out of the ears. You are right, I am very demanding. Breathe, squeeze, hold, brace that spine, brace that spine. Awesome, almost
3,
done.
2, 1. Long rest.
Hey, way to finish strong through it. I really like that. All right, very, Very good job. We thank you so much for spending your time with us. We do want to help you move well so you live well. And a part of that is going to be the self-massage work. Being a massage therapist and a personal trainer, I understand the importance of both relaxing your muscle tissue and strengthening your muscle tissue. So the active movement portions, we're trying to strengthen that tissue. We now need to learn to relax that muscle tissue, okay? So we will work through more of that self-massage work. Make sure you get that in every single time we go through this. Yes, Carol, what is your question? Should you like this video? Yes, yes you should. Okay. My knee is tight lately. Recommend something. Very good. Okay, so we're going to take a second then to talk about the healing process. Okay, so I've told Carol this before, but I want others to hear this as well. The healing process has very specific things that it's doing, right? Anytime we have a joint dysfunction, especially swelling is going to be involved. Okay, so what we end up having is that knee is trying to heal, so the brain sends fluid to that area. So it's going to take blood flow and push it into that area to try to fill it full of nutrients that are good for healing. The problem is, think of it like a balloon that's filling up at the faucet, right? A water balloon. It fills and fills and fills. If there's no outlet, it's only going to continue to fill, right? And then it just stays there. So what we have to do is actually pull it off that filter and squeeze the balloon, kind of let that tension push the fluid out of the joint. Okay, so typically what I say is that joint is going to be best helped or provided by, instead of RICE, a lot of people have heard that, rest, ice, compress, and elevate, I want HECM. It's the only thing I could think of to actually really help get this through. HECM, H-E-C-M, heat, elevate, compress, and move. And the move is not necessarily through loaded movement, but what we want to do is heat the muscle tissue above the joint, okay? Because we're always thinking venous return, we're thinking open lymphatic vessels. Ice is a constrictor, a vasoconstrictor. So if I put ice on my veins, they're going to get smaller, right? So that's going to limit the amount of healing that can actually happen in that area, but also it's going to restrict the outflow, right? So we're not going to be able to send fluid out. All ice does is it stops the input of fluid that's bringing the good, healthy nutrients for things to heal. So we want to increase the amount of fluid that's going in, but also increase the amount of fluid out, okay? So heat just above the joint. So I'd say heat your quad, right? Elevate your knee with a pillow, just something like that, maybe off the edge of a couch. Then you want to hold compression above the knee, right? So I want to pull, I say like a squeegee, right? Pull any fluid out of that knee. So we're going to continue to pull. Once I get above the knee, I'm going to hold that compression there and then create movement. Just move that muscle tissue, okay? Because what that does now is it creates kind of like a pump internally, okay? So I've got nice wide open blood vessels. I've got that tissue moving, creating that pump compression, plus I'm adding that compression with the hands through that tissue, okay? So HECM, heat, elevate, compress, and move. And again, it doesn't have to be loaded movement where I'm walking or jogging or doing something like that, okay? So hopefully that is helpful to you, Carol, and others who maybe are suffering from some sort of joint problem. And this is something I do for my knee pretty often. I've had 3 knee surgeries, still don't have an ACL, and I'm sure that there's damage and arthritis in there. But majority of days I do fine. If I maybe jump off something or take a wrong move or turn, it can grind a little bit. I'll notice the inflammation. Then I just start this process again, right? We want to continually try to heal that tissue, okay? So HECM, heat, elevate, compress, and move. Heat above the joint, elevate the joint up, compress it using some pressure, so you can use even wraps of some kind to pull through that knee, and then move it. Just range of motion, contracting that muscle tissue. Okay? That should be a way to help you move well so you live well. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. We'll see you again tomorrow for our total body day.
For the foot, we're going to be looking at 4 different layers of muscle tissue. We'll begin with the most superficial ones. This initial layer is where we will focus first, with the bulk of our work being done on the flexor digitorum brevis. On the inside of the foot near the arch and heel is the abductor hallucis, and on the outside near the heel, the abductor digiti minimi. The second layer is made up of the quadratus plantae and the lumbricals. The lumbricals are intertwined with the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus. The third layer of muscle tissue is important when concerning pain at the ball of the foot. Here, the focus is on the flexor hallucis brevis, flexor digiti minimi brevis, adductor hallucis, the oblique head, and the transverse head. We're going to begin our work with a lacrosse ball right next to the wall. Place your foot beside the wall and start with the lacrosse ball near the front of the foot or the ball of the foot. Slowly press your foot over the ball, moving the ball towards the heel. Once you reach the heel, continue your pressure directly into the tissue connecting to the heel. As you stand still with pressure, pull the toes up, then flex them down into the floor. Continue this process for 2 to 3 rounds. Then proceed to work on the ball of the foot, stopping incrementally to flex the toes and relax. This process should take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes to work your way all the way back to the heel, stretching the fascia on the bottom of the foot. Be sure to use firm pressure as you flex the toes and pull them up. Be sure to breathe and relax as you work the ball towards the heel. Next, we're going to use a bouncy ball near the ball of the foot, in the arch, and near the heel. The point of this is to push with even pressure into the floor, allowing your foot to collapse or fold over the ball for 20 to 30 seconds. Then, lift your foot, move the ball to a new area, and begin to stand again with even pressure on both feet. Even pressure means do not lean away from the pressure, but keep the pressure on both feet for 20 to 30 seconds. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times all over your left and then right foot. You can work from the ball of the foot all the way towards the heel. Remember to relax and stand evenly on the ball. The final layer of muscle tissue is between the metatarsals, called the Plantar Enterasii. These are small muscles, but powerful for squeezing the foot tight. Work each finger between each toe until you have reached the webbing. It may take you some time to get to this point because it is an extreme stretch. Regardless of how deep you get your fingers into your toes, create a squeeze on the ball of the foot, creating separation of the metatarsals. Begin to move the foot back and forth, creating a big stretch. You will continue this anywhere from 30 to 40 seconds. Using the fingertips, we will begin working the top of the foot. Bend the toes up and press your fingers between the toes up the foot toward the ankle. This will create greater relaxation of the muscles that hold the toes together. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times, then return to the pivoting motion back and forth on the ball of the foot.